Hello and welcome, Adrian. I'm super excited to have you here.
Hi, Anke, and thank you so much for inviting me. Really excited to be talking about this.
Well, we have a very hot topic today, and I would love to jump straight in, but I would want to take a second or two to say, well, yeah, let people know where you're based and, what's your business.
Yeah, sure. So I'm based in the UK. I've been a geek since I was about 7 or 8 years old, and it was only a matter of time before I discovered email and email marketing and things like that. And that evolved to the point where maybe 5 or 6 years ago, ever since then, all I've done is help people get better performance from their emails. The technical term is deliverability, which means helping more of your emails land in the inbox and out of the spam folder, because obviously the more emails you can get delivered, the better you get your message out. And if you're selling something, the more likely you are to sell something. So that is my passion, just helping people get the best performance they can without having to spend lots more money on new leads or invest time and things like that. It's just how can you get the best you can from what you've got?
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. I guess like if you kind of, if you understand the power of email marketing, well, this is like a no-brainer, right? To pay
Yeah.
attention to that. Are there like typical big mistakes people make?
I think the biggest problem is people still market like it's 2012. They still want to build the biggest list they can, and they just want to. They send as many emails they can to everybody on their list until they either buy something, or they die, or they unsubscribe. And the world has changed massively in that time. Google is now the biggest mailbox provider in the world. So more than between 50 and 75% of most email lists are made up of Gmail or Google Workspace people. And Google have invested millions, if not more, in giving a good experience to those people, which means that they have put lots of rules in place. Also, Google want to make money from their emails, so they're going to reward you if you're mailing people that open their emails. So that
Mm.
means that the biggest mistake you can make right now is mailing all those people that have been on your list for years and years and have never opened anything in all that time. If people aren't opening your emails sometime in the last 30 days, they probably will never open anything ever again. And it's very difficult to let go of all of those hard-won email addresses that you've got. But the truth is that Google and Microsoft and Yahoo, that are the most common mailbox providers, all they care about really is how well you're managing your engagement. Are you only mailing the people that want to hear from you? Are you only mailing the people that are still reading your emails? So if you can just let go of all the dead wood on your email list, all those people that no longer read your stuff, then you could be setting yourself apart from probably 90% of all the people out there that use email. It is that much. That's the biggest mistake. The second biggest mistake is what we're going to talk about today, because there's this great big word that starts with A that is
Let's
suddenly,
just like call out the elephant in the room.
absolutely, email authentication. No one had heard of it until maybe October last year when Google and Yahoo, and it's strange how suddenly these mailbox providers start talking to each other in the background. I don't think it's a coincidence that Google and Yahoo announced this on the same date with the same deadline. But they decided that they want to make it harder for spammers to get their email out there. They want to make it easier for them to provide a better inbox experience for their users. Because sure, they do want to make money out of this, but they also want to make it as easy as possible for their users to receive the emails that they want. Because that way, then Google's biggest nightmare is someone abandons a 5 or 6 year old Gmail account and starts a new one up. They don't want people to do that because they lose all of their data and history and things like that. So they want to make it as easy as possible for people to keep using Gmail. And one of the ways of doing that, obviously, is to reduce the amount of spam and other bad emails that land in inbox. So what they're doing is they're bringing in new, tighter rules for people that send marketing emails to say, if you don't follow these rules, then after February the 1st, we are pretty likely to stop delivering those emails that you're sending. So they've made it very clear what they want. And they're saying, if you don't do this, then you can keep trying to send emails, but we don't have to deliver them. And they've put, specific rules that say, well, here's what we expect you to do.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm thinking like, yeah, I don't know. Every time I open my spam folders, there's emails in there that shouldn't be,
Yeah.
and then there in my inbox, there's stuff that clearly belongs into the spam folder. And I think with all the technology, like you're not really doing such a great job. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens when these rules come into place.
I totally agree. It's interesting that Google in particular have spent so much money on artificial intelligence over the years to try and improve it. And I'll be fair to Google. I've used Microsoft 365 for email. I've used Google Workspace. And the one thing I will say is that, in my opinion, Google gets it right much more often than Microsoft does. But even Google isn't perfect. As you say, stuff goes into spam that we want. And, I still get the occasional Nigerian scammer landing in my inbox. So how can that be?
I don't understand it, but but so can you give like in as few or simple words as possible, what's the essence of those new rules? What does it actually
Okay.
mean? What do they want now?
So what we're looking for, and the thing is, there's lots of techno babble behind this. There's lots of geeky words and acronyms and things like that. And I'll keep it nice and simple because most people get scared by technology and all these crazy techno speak. But at its simplest, what Google and Yahoo are saying is that they want every email that gets sent out to have a digital signature in it, because that digital signature confirms that the email is coming from you. And because part of the signature gets published as part of your domain, then it means that it's something that spammers can't do, because it will only work for people with a legitimate email address on a legitimate domain. So our domain is emailsmart.com. And every time we send an email, then it will only work because we've published some specific information that's unique to Email Smart. And every business has the opportunity to do the same thing. And once you've published that information on your domain, then you have to go to your email marketing platform, and somewhere there'll be a setting called email authentication or domain authentication, or something like that. And you go in, you set that up. It's a one-off activity. You only need to do it once, and then as long as you don't change things, it will keep working forever. So you don't need to become an expert in this. You just need to do it the one time. Set up this authentication where your emails are being signed. And that's step one of the process. Step two then is there's a second setting that you have to publish for your domain that tells the world what should happen if your email doesn't contain that digital signature. And you can either tell it to take no action whatsoever, or you can tell the world to quarantine the emails, which means they go into spam, or you can tell it to reject them, which means that they don't even make it as far as the spam folder. So as an example, email is probably one of the easiest systems to abuse. I could go into my MailChimp account or my ActiveCampaign account, and technically I could send an email that was from, the White House or something like that. I could send an email from whitehouse.gov, and it would get sent and it would be accepted at the other end. And the only reason that we can protect against that is with authentication. Because if I send something pretending to be from whitehouse.gov, then as long as the White House have actually set up their authentication, and they've set up, and I'm sure in their case they will have a reject instruction. So if an email comes out that pretends to be from the White House that hasn't got their digital signature, it's going to get thrown in the bit bucket instantly. For myself, Email Smart, I don't have many people pretending to be Email Smart, so I stick with the none option. Because the challenge you've got if you go for quarantine or reject is you then have to monitor what's happening. You have to get reporting systems in place to make sure
I was just about to
something
ask you
is
that,
wrong.
which sector?
It's why do anything more complicated than you need? If you're a
Yeah.
big business, I'm sure that Coca-Cola will have a policy preventing people from spoofing them. They will have reject or quarantine. The White House will, Google will. Google, this is an interesting one actually, because particularly if you're a smaller business and you don't have your own domain, or you're emailing from a Gmail address or a Yahoo address or an Outlook address, as of February the 1st, Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo are changing it so their authentication settings will prohibit other people sending emails from a Gmail or a Yahoo or an Outlook address. So that means if you're using MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or any other kind of email marketing
Some of
platform,
them already enforce that.
yes,
I mean, like,
totally.
I don't think MailerLite lets you,
No, it's
yeah.
never been a good idea because I mean, why would you have more respect for a business that's still using a Gmail address? It
No, it's
costs,
much more likely to be
$20 a
dodgy.
year to get a domain name.
Yeah.
So it's not difficult to use that. So what they're saying is from February the 1st, you must not use any kind of free email address when you're sending from an email marketing platform. And it's the same reason, it's because everything is getting tightened up. So again, there's a few simple things. Step one, make sure you're not using a free email address in your email marketing. Step two, go to your marketing platform and set up the email authentication, which is where the digital signature gets added. And then step three is then you publish what's called a DMARC record that says if someone does pretend to be me and they're not, what will we do about it? And saying take no action, the technical thing is P equals none, that is totally okay. I've seen some people saying, oh, you must go to quarantine or reject. And that's just a one-way ticket to pain unless you actually really need it. But
Yeah.
that in a nutshell is all there is to it. It doesn't need to be complicated, but I think because it sounds new and it sounds scary, people do
Yeah.
worry about it. But
Of
it is
course.
very easy to check. That's the thing.
Yeah. And I think like if you see it usually when you can see what that actually looks like in an email. When you look at an email that comes like from your email, like if you use Active Campaign, it'll
Mhm.
say, sender, your email address, and then it says via active hosted,
Yep.
like that's like, yeah,
Absolutely.
like there's you pretending to come through that
Mhm.
other, that's where that you can see like
Totally.
that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
So now, the good news, because I think most people will go like, yeah, yeah, kind of, that makes sense. And you just sort of say how to set this up, right? So I think the first step there is to figure out what stage your stuff is actually
Yeah.
in, right? And the
Totally.
good news we have is you've got a tool for that.
Yep,
Tell us about it.
absolutely. So I was very lucky that back in summer last year, I got some kind of idea to work on an authentication checker, and this was before I knew that it was going to become mandatory. So I was very lucky in the timing. So we now have a tool called the Email Smart Authentication Checker, and it's very simple. You register for the tool, you log into it, so that way then it knows to share the results with you, and it will either, the simplest way to use it is you click a button and it says send an email to this specific address. You then go to your marketing platform, you send the email to that address, and then within a minute or so, you'll get a result saying either everything is okay or something isn't quite right, and here's the things that need to be fixed. And then once you
It
know
works
where
a
you're
treat. I've tried it.
at, excellent. And the
And
target
it's
is to
very
get
quick.
lots of green check marks across the board. If you can, then great. And the thing to remember as well, just as an aside, this isn't mandatory from February the 1st, but you can and should check the emails you send from whether you're using Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, or if you've got a help desk platform, anything like that, they also have to have this authentication set up. You're not going to be penalized if you don't have that part on February the 1st, but we know that this is the first step in Google and
Mm.
Yahoo and Microsoft as well, tightening things up further.
Actually, one thing I've heard is, that this is really only kind of like not relevant. It's kind of the first step is for people with like who send a lot of emails.
Yes, totally. And there's been a lot of uncertainty and misinformation on this as well. So, Google and Yahoo have both said, well, we are definitely going to enforce it if you are above a certain threshold. But what they're also saying is that they very strongly recommend it for everyone below that, because even if you're sending only 100 emails at a time, if you've got authentication set up, it sets you apart from the spammers and it will make you much more likely to land in the inbox than the spam folder. So it doesn't matter how big or how small your email list is. What I've always said with email deliverability is that the larger your list is, the more you're going to be monitored by Google and Yahoo, and the more you have to follow their rules. But even if you're just getting started and you've got the tiniest little list, it still
Mm.
makes sense to follow that best practice from day one. So that way, then as you grow, and you can be comfortable and confident that everything is set up as it needs to be, and you're doing everything you can to get those emails through.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And kind of also like you have more time to build your reputation as a sender, right? So as your list grows, you don't all of a sudden have a big problem there. So
Absolutely.
definitely, I think it's
Absolutely.
definitely highly recommended. So we're going to pop the link to the tool below the video, because that's your first step to just see, do
Absolutely.
am I in good shape, or well, your email, like you're always in good shape. So is your email authentication in good shape or not? That's your first step, and we'll
Yeah,
pop the link to that.
absolutely.
And it's free, it's super quick, and it basically gives you peace of mind.
Yes,
So
definitely.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for clearing that up for people, because I think there's a lot of like, oh, you must have this, you must have this, a lot of like fear mongering around as well. And people get worried, and especially when they not really familiar with the topic and this has never come up before, and all of a sudden I need this thing I don't understand. So thank you so much for clearing that up.
No, absolute pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for coming.